One.
Welcome everyone to another Beyond Bitcoin, a BitShares Open Agenda Hangout on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is Saturday, October 13th, 2018, and I am Official Fuzzy. I am going to be here pretty much every week for either a BitShares talk or EOS talk, and in the future we're going to have potentially a few other ones. And this is where the network started. This is where delegated proof of stake started, and we've been covering it from the beginning. And we try to leave this open as a forum where anybody can go and sign up to any of the Hangout leaders that provide these Hangouts in the future. You'll go to their location of choice to sign up, and then you'll be able to join up to their RSVP'd Hangouts and be a guest speaker. We have done this model so we could create some synergy between the mutual aid society chains that started and became, of which Steam is one, and also to connect it between the mutual aid society chains and BitShares. So if you imagine BitShares as a central hub where you can trade all these different tokens, you can think of many social networks and community forums that are going to now be in the future backed by their own currencies, their own community currencies that are worth value propositions that the community can provide. And we want to cover all this stuff in the future. We want to cover what you want to cover and enable everybody to have a free, open forum where we can discuss updates, where we can discuss things that you think matter in the BitShares and EOS and DPoS ecosystems, and talk about how you can bring value to this and how you are bringing value to this. Or maybe that person that you know who's really quiet brings a lot of value and nobody knows about them. It's also a great forum to talk about them, or maybe to bring them, to discuss what they're doing. We want to keep this as an open forum for this reason, because we want to provide a blank slate that is not really a place where you have to worry about getting attacked or anything like that to talk about things that are important in the space to you. So we don't want to be a pay-to-play organization. We don't want to have trolls, and we generally have everybody is very civil and good. So I want to thank everybody for joining these Hangouts, and I want to thank everybody who is joining this live or listening after the fact. But also I want to tell you guys, we have so many places where all these Hangouts are listed. A lot of community volunteers. If you go out on search engines and type in Beyond Bitcoin, you will see that the Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts. You type that in, and you will see that there are multiple places that this gets posted. So this is done by a community of people. Not all of them I even know. So please consider leveraging it for yourself, for your own Hangouts. And if you are interested in doing your own Hangout for your own project, please let me know and I can get you in touch with my team. Now, with that said, we do hold these Hangouts, and this is the Hangout that I'm going to be hosting today. And we'll be getting into a couple of basic things that have been provided by the community. RSVP post on @officialfuzzy at whaleshares.io. And of course, also on bitsharestalk.io, which is the blockchain-based forum that we are now leveraging to enable everybody who was share dropped, which was 100% of the user base, 100% of the BitShares users who received WOS. You now have a blockchain-based forum for BitShares. If you guys can take them there, actually, we don't do this enough. And I think we need to start probably showing the forums a little bit more here. We show them on the US talks, but we don't show them here on the BitShares talks. And I've been just thinking that we maybe should do that because these forums are based on our technology. They're the first forums in the world that exist based on delegated proof of stake. And they're pretty nice. They're made by the Jesta and Greymass team, who Block One has certified to do their Greymass wallet as one of the prime that they would urge people to use. So this team has created these forums, and we said, let's make sure that this delegated proof of stake based forum ecosystem is put into the hands of the BitShares community. So with that said, we do have that. It's early on, but you can post to whaleshares.io or you can go to the forums, because the forums exist on top of whaleshares.io. And of course, WhaleShares was dropped all on BitShares holders, all of it, no ICO, nothing, only directly to you guys. Cut out all the centralized exchanges, only the people holding BitShares, brownies, all these things. We wanted to keep the promise of the share drop of this technology on the BitShares holders. So we have this now here. We have it. And please let everybody know we have it here. Because if we don't use the tools that we have, we potentially lose them. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into, we have BitShares State of the Network Report, October 10th, 2018. And Talkinator has a couple topics that he brought up here today, and I will discuss those if he does not. So this is from PowerPix, and thank you for posting this, man. Bittrex has advised that on 5th of November 2018, they are retiring their BitShares BTS wallet. BTS has not been trading on Bittrex for over a year, but looking at CryptoFresh, it shows that Bittrex still holds 15 million BTS. If you have BTS on Bittrex, withdraw them before November 5th. That's extremely important that you recognize that. If you have tokens on these exchanges, when they pull them off, if they close the accounts, sometimes get them yourself, even though it's closed, but sometimes they don't. So you might very well lose your tokens if you don't take them off that centralized exchange, which is Bittrex. Up next, BitShares and BitUSD have been included in the academic study of stablecoins by blockchain.info. You can go to the BitShares State of the Network Report and find that link. Next, BitShares sponsors SteamFest 3 in Krakow and gives away 5 full conference tickets. So if you are interested in traveling to SteamFest 3, you can do that. You can get the conference tickets if you'd like to do that. Up after that is BitShares UI release candidate version 2.0.181010 has been deployed to the staging environment. So that looks like they're making headway there. After that is Ronnie Bozing, CEO of OpenLedger, has been interviewed by Tech Bullion in regards to transforming business with blockchains. You can get more information at the BitShares State of the Network Report. And then finally, this is of course just an excerpt, but we do want to make sure that you check out the entire BitShares State of the Network Report. But the final one that we do have for today on this excerpt is Rudex.org has now launched 3 new gateways. One is the WhaleShares platform, WLS. The other is Smoke Network, which is Smoke, and Gridcoin, GRC, are now available on the BitShares DEX through Rudex.org. So if you ever want to trade those tokens, you're just going to go up on BitShares, you're going to download the wallet, or you're going to go to Rudex website. It's always good to have a wallet that you own personally, though, just to let everybody know. But what you would do is you would go and you would look for rudex.ws, rudex.smoke, or rudex.grc. And that would be how you would find the tokens that they actually allow you to trade, and then you use that gateway to send them to your wallet. Okay, so with that said, I think we got the State of the Network Report out of the way for this week, and thank you, PowerPix, for providing it, along with the slide that you provided. Those slides are all. And Talkinator has a couple worker proposals that he was wanting to post about. Is Talkinator able to step up and talk about it, or do you want me to say it, Taco? I have this feeling that your mic isn't working because it generally hasn't been working, right? Okay, no problem. I just don't want to step all over your toes, buddy. Okay, so we have a couple worker proposals that are up for discussion. One of which is the redesign of the BitShares.org website from Digital Lucifer. Then the next one is the comprehensive UX UI update by the Rossel and Graphene Lab team. If you guys remember, Rossel were the people who came on here from Canada, rated one of the best, I think the best front-end design firm in Canada. So, depending on how you base those ratings or how you take that, kind of an interesting thing to consider because they're doing some cool things. Community UI proposal by APT is the other one. And then on-chain smart contracts for BitShares. Those are some pretty interesting topics. Is there anything that anybody wants to talk about regarding these before I get into what I think? The big one for me that pops out is on-chain smart contracts. It's a very interesting concept. It seems like they have a testnet operating. So if they have a testnet operating and they are looking to deploy this on BitShares, this would mean a smart contract solution on BitShares. It's a very interesting topic to bring up because there are obviously the BIOS thing is coming up, right? And that's from Stan and I believe Michael and the guys from Arise Bank, I think. I'm pretty sure there's other people on there too, but I think that those people are players in BIOS. And that's, of course, supposed to be a chain that benefits and synergizes with BitShares, right? An EOS chain. So I'm not quite sure, but I would like to see how that would work. Does anybody with more of... Oh, BitShares.org does have a demo of the site. Okay. Yeah, BitShares.org, the people who've been doing that, they've been running full nodes and other stuff in the BitShares ecosystem. So, I mean, they generally seem to be doing a pretty good job. Does anybody have any thoughts on BIOS and smart contracts here? And the thought of providing a worker proposal for smart contracts? That's the big one that sticks out to me, maybe not to everybody else.
Well, from what I understand, in order to use BIOS, you would lock up BTS and have an equivalent token over on the BIOS network. Is that true?
I think that's to receive them. I don't know if that's forever true. It might be. You might know more on that than me. I do know that you have to do that in some fashion to receive to claim them, but that's the extent of my knowledge. I'm actually supposed to have a conversation with Stan later on today after another meeting. But yeah, it's a very good question. That would be doing it.
Well, the idea is that if BitShares wants to play and the dev team on BitShares wants to be able to work with BIOS interactively, then there needs to be code changes on BitShares to accommodate that. If not, there's still a mechanism of locking up BitShares tokens on through a particular user, and that way they don't need permission from the BitShares blockchain to do so, to build on top of it. So apparently that's the idea at this stage.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing to an experiment kind of try and see where it goes. I really need to learn the in-depth, like for instance, I'm trying to figure out about the privacy and all that stuff. Yeah, there's so many questions I have for him. I'm going to try to dig into today. But it's my thinking is, do we need smart contracts on BitShares to even better operate with other chains? I mean, I don't know. This is a place where I'm not quite sure. I suspect that there are going to need to be contracts on both sides or operations on both sides that can do these things, but I guess not all of it has to be on chain. I think that makes sense, but then again, I might be missing something like on a deep level that makes that stuff impossible. User-created smart contracts on BitShares will need to be paid for with BTS and raise computational burden on all BTS nodes. Yeah, I think that kind of makes a lot of sense, Talkinator. And to be honest with you, there's, you've got Warbly is considering similar types of things. They have a slightly different way of guiding the ship, but they have basically a similar model to BitShares in terms of, you use these tokens for bandwidth. Like that's essentially what you're doing on BitShares. I send a little bit of BitShares and that's worth my bandwidth. Not separating it out and making it difficult. Right? They're saying basically, we've got the bandwidth there. Let it be in the token. Let it be backed by the token. Or let the token be backed by it, rather. So, with user-created smart contracts on a middle chain, will be paid for with middle chain token run on those nodes. I'll talk to him and ask him to join. To be honest with you, I think that a lot of people, it's just one of those things where when you have a live hangout, you have to discuss things, but it's one of those things where the people who traditionally came on here a lot, they are in big projects now, like trying to build chains and stuff. So we're trying to I think the way that Beyond Bitcoin is going to go is you're going to end up having a show for each one of these types of things, right? Like you'll have a show for Smoke, for instance. Of course, that's traded on BitShares, did its ICO on BitShares, all that stuff. And we'll end up having that stuff because you're going to have to go in that direction because everybody's like Stan is so busy with these other things that are going on. And they have their own team, right? So I don't think that there's a reason why you would need to lock up BTS to receive an airdrop. I mean, I don't think they're trying to like do anything evil with it. I think what they're trying to do, I think there is a reason why. I mean, where they're trying to probably get people to lock them up so they don't trade them, which takes them off the market, which hypothetically should, if they can drive demand with that share drop, might increase demand for BitShares while also locking a bunch of it away. I don't think of it as a power grab so much because they wouldn't get any power from that. It would be more of a behavioral maneuver to get people to buy the tokens. It's almost like Maz networks. Think about it like this. Mutual aid society chains essentially allow you, like they make people lock up their tokens for a long period of time, right? For the long term, and in return get value in the network, hypothetically, right? The ability to distribute tokens. Now that's essentially doing what Reserve does, which is print tokens, but it does it in a transparent way and based on who owns stake in the chain and is locking it away. And when like 70 to 80% of the tokens are locked away, the value of the chain can become a lot higher because fewer tokens are on the market for when people want to get them. So it's just kind of like an economic fact, kind of, it's like, it's just how it is. If people have tokens locked up, they're not selling them, but they're also not buying them. So you also have to kind of bring into that equation, does that help with liquidity? With BitShares, I suspect it probably wouldn't hurt it because BitShares already has a lot of volume. But at the same time, that might be that's a good question. Okay, so they can vote with your locked up BTS? Yeah, that's a very good question. And okay, it's okay. No, we're fine, Ken.
One thing that I'd like to congratulate is this community seems to dig deep into details a lot. So anything that happens in regard to this, I think all the questions need to be answered ahead of time because that's just the nature of the BitShares community.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we can definitely discuss this. I think we discuss this. I actually wish that this would have been posted to the BitShares Talk forums as a reply to our post because this is a very good topic to bring up. I actually was planning on bringing it up if nobody else did, and we had some time anyway. But it is a great place to get a couple WLS also when the inflation is still high. And right now, I think each one is worth 3 BTS traded on BitShares. Yeah, okay, so Talkinator is getting us back onto the track here with the middle chain would be the area where non-native tokens can trade and can be used for smart contracts on middle chain. Then can be withdrawn out of middle chain and back onto their native chains. Yeah, so it's a kind of a concept that it's kind of like the hub and spoke model. I'm assuming that they're going with BIOS. Like if it's a middle chain, then every other chain connects to it, right? Which is exactly the route EOS is going. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out. I kind of I like the hub and spoke model, but then I see myself, I start saying, well, then honestly though, we can really have each spoke be a hub too. Like there doesn't have to necessarily be a single one. I mean, maybe for certain things it does, but keep it simple. Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act there. But I guess the point that I would bring up would be to get back to the worker proposals. Seems like the smart contracts are done on this test net. Like I love that when somebody comes to us and says this is done. We've already done it. We didn't even ask you for money up front. I think we should definitely at least give them moments, a quick couple looks with our devs and see if this stuff is legit and we can use it. Because a worker proposal, the way I look at it, there's going to be a lot of people. If they have a test net running this anyway, they can already create their own chain. So if BitShares doesn't want these things, then that might happen, which is totally fine too. But if it's a great opportunity and something extremely valuable, this worker proposal might be a really good one. Yeah, I'm glad you brought the worker proposals as far as this goes, Taco, because these worker proposals are getting better and better, if you've noticed. It's kind of a little bit of a difference between the early days worker proposals Yeah, of course. There it seems like multiple worker proposals for. Yeah, that is another question. Um, if it works, it's one of those things where it's like if it works and they're like we need to find a way of actually probably using it on this test net. Where is the cost? I don't see it written here. Yeah, for sure. It, I'll tell you this. I think that worker proposals are they're relatively easy to actually do. It's a little bit you want to be strategic about getting them through and make sure that you either get the sign off by the couple people who really you need a sign off on, which is BitCrab. I believe BitCrab is doing the um, for the Chinese community, and then we have Xerox and Fab, of course. But Fab isn't necessary right now. He's like number 3, which he can get things done a lot. But Xerox and BitCrab are almost at the point where like you have to have them. Is there anybody else that you guys know of? Are you number 10 now? My gosh. So much is going on, man. It's like now we have all these different chains that are starting to trade on BitShares and stuff, and it's like I did not know that.
Fuzzy, I'd like to draw attention to Talkinator's comment that the smart contracts on BitShares that it wasn't originally designed for might flood the blockchain and make it slow and heavy. And if that's true, then what the solution is well, everybody, sorry that BitShares can't keep up, but EOS can. So now BIOS is going to just be the new BitShares. You kind of have to look at the gift of the Trojan horse right in the mouth before you decide to leapfrog into it.
That's a very interesting take on it. I'm not going to say that that's not the case. I don't know, man. It's just kind of hard because I know that everybody in BitShares who's doing the things they're doing at least thinks, or most of them at least, think that they're doing things for the right reasons. And I think that a lot of other times people think that they're doing them for the wrong reasons, but it's like everybody's trying to have influence if they're trying to do something. You know, they want to have influence over how things work to try to help what they're doing, and they think that what they're doing is important. So I have a hard time like with the power play stuff. It's like all of you guys, you know, are in a situation. We're humans. We're in a power kind of play world, right? But with that said, you're right. We need to always take into consideration if there are other, other pieces of information or other possibilities that can come from these types of events, or maybe like how you're talking about the commingling of a couple of these events, then it is something that's important to consider that sometimes there might be like a multifaceted approach to trying to take control of the BitShares chain. Question is, to me, there's already people who are basically top kings here. So there's going to be power struggles too. We're going to have to watch it. It's going to be very interesting. But have you noticed that this is happening a lot more since people are starting to recognize how sexy Depos is? Like, you're starting to get more like topics like this that we're not signing up to talk about, but we probably should be. Okay, so this is the, I guess the question that, sorry, Talkinator, we did cover the worker proposals to a degree, but do we want to go back to the worker proposals, or do we want to keep talking? Because it seems like there's a lot of interesting on that.
I say we hash this out in the after party.
Okay. Smart contract matching could serve as an incubator for later native smart contracts. The worker proposal system BTS could almost buy out successful contracts to be integrated. That's a great point, Lafona. And you could have we could have hackathons. We could sponsor hackathons on a chain, for a smart contract chain, or for smart contracts on certain smart contracts on BitShares, if indeed the clogging issues in it a concern, a true concern, and BitShares might not be able to handle that. But it's one of those things where you can't do it on a test net because it's not going to get enough volume. So you need to do it on a live net, but you can't do it on BitShares live net. What's the other option? Well, Warbly is really a fan of BitShares, from what I've been talking to them behind the scenes, and they seem to be a little bit more able to get some things accomplished too. So it might not be a bad idea to approach them, and also Telos. They might be interested in some of those things. I know there are a couple other forks out there that might be interested as well. We don't have to just test them on EOS either, right? Like, all of these are different Depos chains. Yeah, well, that's a good point, because the EOS does have actual users. That's a very good point. Who isn't a fan of BitShares? Crazy. Okay, now you guys are just getting crazy. I have no damn clue what you're talking about now.
I'm saying everyone loves BitShares. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy all the people that we're onboarding with the whale shares. Like, we've made tons of accounts over the last month, just helping people get onto the whale shares site. So,
well, you guys have also done customer support for BitShares for a long time, and whale shares actually came around kind of as a result of not being able to even kind of being told that a worker proposal for it, for a tier 1 customer service, would not be supported in BitShares. So you guys have been onboarding people, have been bringing a lot of people to BitShares Talk.io, those forums that we have now that are actually based on our technology. Everybody who's listening should tell everybody about it. Because you guys are doing an amazing job. And you guys helped launch it, because I felt like a small share drop on the launch team, aka you guys, who have brought on all these different people, was very valuable, was worthwhile. And I'm glad to hear it, because I know you're busy, but you are helping BitShares. Whale Shares is very much helping BitShares. You guys sorry.
I was just going to say I'm glad to do it because that's the only exchange that I use. So it's kind of nice. It gets me more familiar with what I'm doing, and it's good for BitShares. It's good for whale shares. So I'm glad it exists.
Well, and the cool thing about it is that you can give them tokens and get them using the tokens for these things, right? And if they learn to use the tokens on BitShares, they basically know how to do the basics of what's most important in BitShares, which is to be able to send tokens back and forth to people. I know you guys act as customer support. Oh, there's a support worker system planned? That's interesting, Fab. How interesting.
If I knew where to find that, I would read it.
People should post it on BitSharesTalk.io. That's a good point, Intel guy. Propose transactions that a user can agree to, like requesting a payment that you didn't know BitShares does. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that BitShares I think can do, and that's why I'm kind of interested in a layer that does smart contracts with BitShares. But then bringing up it does go back into that whole concept of, you know, can one chain do everything and should it have to? And if we're into maximum decentralization, we should have every chain exist as a decentralized entity or community and have many of them. I think that what Fab's talking about is a support worker system for BitShares. Yeah. I'm personally, where I'm coming from on this is I think that there should be DACs that do these things. Things like, I mean, we've got the tech, you know. If we can fund people to build DACs that share drop on BitShares and trade on BitShares and that we can use on BitShares, and that we can actually, like, maybe even with IBC start exchanging back and forth between their native chains and BitShares. These are some really powerful things that we can do. You know, Steam and Mutual Aid Society chains are flexible. There's a lot more that can be done with them. That's why, honestly, that's one of the main reasons why I said let's use WhaleShares to help support this. Because if WhaleShares, let's say WhaleShares gets a witness as a community on BitShares, and it has like a deal where it buys WhaleShares with BitShares on the exchange with a percentage of what that DAC gets. Now, these DACs, if other DACs were to do that, it might not be the most valuable thing for them, but it would be something that's a trickle and does help them. And it would be something that really substantially helps BitShares. If we had term limits on them, we could essentially make the witnesses into a situation where the witnesses kind of subsidize the building of DACs, the share drop on us, and we end up benefiting from that, and then they end up kind of changing out because of term limits, and new ones come in and get those same subsidies to start up if they get voted in. Yeah, and tell guy, I really wish I would have gotten to talk to Stan last night because I would probably know more details on some of these things because, well, let me ask you guys. They have asked me if I would be part of the team, and I'm kind of telling them I would love to, but I'd hate to, and I kind of feel like that. Because I don't know if, like I love the idea of having funding that I don't have to pay out of pocket to give to projects. But then at the same time, there's a lot that I don't know, and a lot that I would say, like a lot of concern from some people in the community too about past things. So I'm not quite sure. And I love the idea of these things and supporting all of them. The question really to me is more, should I get so tied up in one of them that I'm trying to, like, I don't mind advising projects because then I can tell them my thoughts on things when they ask me. I don't have to, like, you know, fill out paperwork every day about Bob and what Bob did, or, you know, X, Y, and Z. I can actually, like, get out and get things done.
So I'm not sure like where you guys are coming from, but if I can say, I was like on US Gov on a Telegram channel, and there's so many problems with EOS regarding the constitution and basic stuff that I'm so glad that that BitShares is a real safe place for now. You know, so I wouldn't like worry much about EOS beating BitShares or something for the time being. Maybe in a year or so, but now, you know, just be glad that the BitShares, like, it's almost every time rock solid, and even if you saw like some proposals to bind the U.S. Constitution to a law, you know, to like even the Dutch law, I was like, oh my god, you know, run away. So my 2 cents.
Where does Dutch law come into this?
Yeah. Good question. So there was some proposal of EOS Constitution version 3, and I mean, like, there's a Google document. I will look it up and I'll post it here. But it's really crazy. So and I happened to be on that meeting, and I said, like, what, you know. So I just like let it be. This is not about EOS. This is about BitShares, but this is just my 2 cents.
Ken Code, I love it, man. You keep it up, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, like, talking about Palm Pay, if we can get like more liquidity by having like actual real world usage, you know, merchants and stuff like that. Well, I mean that will make BitShares moon really easily.
I think BitShares has been recognized in the market for sure. I think that people are very well aware of it. I think that there are a lot of people who are in EOS and the EOS ecosystem, because you're talking about EOS 2, and let's face it, that's where a lot of the money is in depots too. There are a lot of people who are wanting to create exchanges there, and they're going to, of course, but BitShares is in one of those kind of special spots where there aren't going to be many sidechain exchanges or exchanges that are not ruled by EOS on EOS. So there's going to be a very valuable position for BitShares to trade those tokens, and also Telos, Warbly, and all those other tokens as well, right? So it's one of those cool things where BitShares gets to soak them all up, and probably is going to be, if we don't block up the chain by adding too much to it, like some of you guys warned today, and keep it focused on what BitShares does best, it's in a pretty good position. What do you want to? Ken Code, any thoughts about BSIP 42 and what it does to either supply of MPAs or collateral behind MPAs? I'll have to read up on BSIP 42. I saw it the other day. I didn't click on it though. It's like, that's how I know that it's a bear market in crypto, but it's a bull market in terms of how little time I have because of all the different stuff going on. And that tells me that we're like, there's good things going on and people don't realize it quite yet, and the market's not quite in the place where it understands it. But Depots is now sexy. Yeah, man. And I'm like having people send me white papers and shit, and I'm like, okay, I'll read it. Like, I'm gonna take time to try to read another white paper. I got it on my list. Like, go through. Like, it's kind of insane right now. I want them all to trade on BitShares, guys, and I can't pay out of pocket to do it. So you guys have to help me figure out how we can do this. Because I need to start getting these people to make tokens on BitShares too. Especially like if I can say, hey, you make it on EOS, you should definitely make it on BitShares, even as a placeholder. Right? And then if it says a placeholder, then they're probably going to use it anyway. Because why wouldn't you? Right? Especially, well, not pay them to do something, pay to get tokens for these different projects. Yeah, well, eDNA, I got him the token, so everything's good on that front. I'm still, actually, I have to talk to him and walk him through some things with the eDNA token. But, you know, he's doing stuff too, so we're all busy. But we have said that we will come up with a time to work together. You know how it is. I'm not even saying necessarily fundraising for them, just more, hey, if there's if we could have a fund where when a token on EOS, gets listed on, or maybe you can apply to get your EOS token created. This would be something that would help onboard substantially. Of course, maybe we go through the exchanges, but man, I kind of want them to have their own native tokens on here, because whenever, I don't even know if I should say this live. I won't say this live. I'll say it in the party. Sorry for those listening in. You'll have to be here for the after party, you crazies. But I think that there's some important stuff I should probably talk to you guys about. Yeah, don't attend the after party. I think it's a really good place that we're in to help BitShares on this. And I think that we should definitely not ignore the opportunity. And the problem that I'm running into on BitShares right now, to be honest with you on that, is that I can't pay out of pocket for them. I know that if I paid for all of them, it would be very valuable for BitShares. I could strategically give them these tokens, but at the same time, it's gotta find some way. Because let's face it, guys, BitShares is talked about all the time in the same sentence as EOS, and that's good for BitShares. It's also good if it capitalizes on it, right? We want people to go, oh, I can trade my stuff on BitShares, right? Friends with benefits. All friends have benefits, Ken Code. All friends have benefits. Probably not the ones you're talking about, but that's another point. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring up? Personally, I'll just say again, another plug for Pompeii. Wow, it sounds like Pompeii when I say it that way.
I'd like to just remind people, Fuzzy, that worker proposals and voting and what people usually leave it to the proxy holders to decide. When there's major changes of this nature, it's important that everybody else get acquainted with worker proposals, how to vote, which ones you're voting for. There's a while that it felt like BitShares was on autopilot, and you can't always assume that. So if you've never graduated to the level of looking where worker proposals are discussed, where they're presented, which ones are proposed, which ones are actually gaining votes, which ones aren't, now's the time to really get yourself acquainted with that system.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm hoping that we will see as some of this UI stuff, UI UX stuff, gets fixed and improved over time, is better voting tools too. Because I suspect that since data can be grabbed and manipulated in different ways to show various points of, kind of like hone in on certain points of data, you can kind of create a system where, I've got a front end where literally all I do is vote and look at worker proposals. It doesn't even have an exchange in it. We just took this data from this part that is necessary for voting, and we literally have a site where you log in with your BitShares account, you go look and read, and yeah. Might be worth reviewing ongoing. What would be great would be to have people who do just that as a job and then boil it down for everybody. And they're paid by the chain, so they're not biased toward any specific thing. I try to be Taco. Not always very effective at it, but sometimes I friggin' shine, baby. Once in every 35 days, approximately. Generally, it's when I'm on coffee. Okay, yeah. An uphill battle for approval. Power picks. I personally have always thought that tier 1 customer support would be a great idea, be a great thing for BitShares. And I think that whale shares kind of changed the requirement for a worker. I don't think that the worker is necessary as much now, but of course, whale shares is early. So, it's one of those things where how much the community chooses to use it is going to define how much value it provides for you guys in return. But the cool thing is, the people you're supporting, right, the people you're helping, will be on BitShares Talk using it. And the inflation is really high at first for a reason with whale shares, right? The reason why whale shares inflation is really high is because A, we did a share drop on all BitShares users who hold tokens on BitShares, not on centralized exchange. And we did that in a way where they would hold the tokens in the BitShares, in the BitShares ecosystem, and the people who joined up and participated early would, in the riskiest stages of it, get a lot more tokens. The inflation will decrease, just like Bitcoin, really, because Bitcoin's halving was an instrumental way of getting that risk-reward curve that really helped people and also supported the people who really took those risks early on with the community. So I suspect that you're going to be building a group of people on whale shares and BitShares Talk who are going to become kind of like mini experts in and of themselves. And that community is going to flourish whether or not BitShares really provides help directly. But it is something that if BitShares found ways of synergizing, it's definitely a lot better because whale shares will be a chain of its own. It'll be sovereign. And if other ideas come up that, that it wants to go on, it's always nice for there to be synergy. So BitShares is taken into account by the whale shares chain people. Which incidentally, right now, definitely is BitShares people. So you shouldn't have a problem. Yeah, I find myself wondering if we could do, like, what keeps us from doing things like hackathons for worker proposals that we give funding to somebody to the winner of it, who builds something random for BitShares. Something that we think is valuable. Maybe it's not even something random, something we choose. And they share drop tokens on us for it. Right? Like, That to me is a way that we could do that creates a value feedback loop. Now, I'm advising other projects to do these types of things. Whether BitShares ends up doing it or not is another question, but that is what I personally think that any token that can accomplish that and start doing that is going to set a precedent that they're always getting more tokens for holding their tokens and voting on projects, right? Imagine how much more voter turnout we'd get if voting on a work proposal potentially actually gave you tokens in your wallet on BitShares that you never had to do anything else about. They just drop in your wallet, right? These are things we can do, like definitely can do.
I think that's a great idea. That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, my problem is I'm trying to find ways of getting it done, and it's one of those things where you have a certain amount of resources. What is at the top list of the priority list? And sometimes you guys probably even see more and more doing it. I'm more and more going around in circles, like sometimes like, oh, like another thing here that's extremely important. And it's like, I have people who help me a lot, like Crazy and Fon Solo and Power Picks and Compound and all you guys, a lot of you guys, really. But I'm still, man, it's like, it's kind of ridiculous. There's so many different things going on now. So, I will say, if anybody has any ideas on those things, reach out to me and let me know. I'm going to be talking to Xerox about some of these things soon too, because I'm in a position where I need to start talking to him about some of these things, and I think that he's open to listening to some of the things I'm talking about as well. Are you guys hearing something from Nutella still?
No, I muted him.
Okay.
In regards to your thing, you got to be watching careful for dividend payments. It creates a whole legality problem for people and taxation issues and different things, and makes things a security and all of those.
Well, share drops are not a promise of a dividend. What they would be if you vote on it and vote for funding, then it trickles down that way. It wouldn't be a dividend, right? A dividend would be a promise that you're going to get X amount given to you in this token at any given time. Now, voting for something, and if you vote for it to be funded, I'm pretty sure it's a different situation. Maybe Fon Solo, who's my in-house CPA and advisor, will tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's correct. You agree with Intelligent? Well, there you go. Then we're going to have to discuss how we would do these things, because that's essentially what EOS is doing. Why would it be different? Right? They're share dropping all the time. What they're doing is they're making basically the BPs are going to become hubs that create dApps. And those dApps will be essentially subsidized via those BPs. And if the BPs create good dApps, they're probably going to stay in for a long time. With an expectation of profit. Yeah, well, that's the problem that we do have in Telegram, and that's kind of what the reason why Med exists too, so they can kind of help advocate for that stuff for us. But I know, Taco. We have these discussions a lot actually at my house. It's a very interesting place because I'll be honest with you, EOS, the way EOS is doing it, its BPs are dropping are trying to build different stuff in the share drop, right? That's where it's going. Like there are people, some of them are trying to build other chains and stuff, but they're even share dropping those chains on EOS. So I think that's where you're seeing it go. And I think that's how you're going to see these things funded. But if you don't do it through worker proposals, which this might, in this case, creates security issues, then it sounds to me like VPs and witnesses are the way to go. I don't know. A vote was, I guess technically from Steam, a vote isn't, right? But the funding that comes with it, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we should probably definitely go into the after party, but thank you guys for joining us this week. And let's go ahead and discuss this in the after party. But I want to make it very clear, everybody, BitSharesTalk.io exists today. We have forums, BitSharesTalk.io forums, that I want to try to get people to start testing out and using with us so we can improve things. And so we can get them really working for us. We have this tech. We can continue using current forums. But to be honest with you, let's be fair. We have a chain now that was share dropped on all of you. We have BitShares Talk. If you're not using BitShares Talk, I will ask you why not. I'll ask you to consider using it. Because using our tools, eating our own stew that we create, is how we prove ourselves. It's how we show the world what we're doing. And if we're not doing it, we're not talking about these things, who else will? Right? Let's face it. We're in a world right now in crypto where all the FUD around depots, right? There's always FUD around depots, and then in the same dang articles that you read about depots being horrible, you'll hear them talk about how other chains that can't scale are going to someday do X, Y, and Z, which depots does if you know about it before reading the article, right? We have that kind of FUD to really push through. And the only way to do it is to show people and to use our tools. So if you're not using BitShares Talk.io, consider testing it out, at least making an account, telling people to make an account there. In the early stages, you're making an account on whaleshares.io is what you're doing. On Whale, but you would already be typing in a centralized forum on BitSharesTalk.org. We have to use these tools, everyone. And I don't have to pay the team of people who I have doing these things. I'm trying to help us get this. And I need people like you guys to help me on this. So thank you, everybody, who's here. But I definitely want to see more people telling people about what we're doing here. Because if we don't tell people, then nobody's going to know. And what's going to happen is everybody's going to tell everybody that they did these things first. And everybody's going to believe them. So please leverage what you have, guys. Leverage what we have here. And recognize that we have to work together to bring these things forward. Right? I can't express that enough. We all need to push forward and leverage these tools we have. I'm trying to give those tools, and I've got a good team of people who's trying to help too. If you guys have tools, people like Ken Code who want to work with us in some way, let us know, because I'd love to work and try to create synergy between those things. That's how we show people. That's how we truly teach them. With that said, EOS Talk next Saturday. and then BitShares talk again afterwards. And we will have WhaleShares talks from the WhaleShares launch team members, or a couple of them, on the Beyond Bitcoin network as well. So make sure to check them out. I don't even run those. It's kind of cool. You've got Telos Network. They are on here as well. They're going to trade on BitShares. They want to work with BitShares. We've got all these cool things. Let's synergize and create Voltron together. See you guys next week.